Have you ever heard the legend of a man whose strength could shake the very earth? A man who stood tall, holding a hammer as if it were an extension of his own body. His name was John Henry, and his story is one of the greatest in American folklore. It all began back in the 19th century, a time of incredible growth for the United States. Railroads were spreading like veins across the land, connecting cities, crossing mountains, and bridging valleys. Thousands of strong men worked day and night under the blazing sun, laying down the steel tracks that would carry trains to places they'd never been before. Among these workers was John Henry, a man unlike any other. He was big, powerful, and incredibly strong, but he was also known for his kind and humble heart. The other workers would joke that he was born with a hammer in his hand. Some whispered his strength was a gift from God. Others believed the earth itself gave him his power. But John never boasted. He let his work speak for him. Every single day, John Henry would swing his heavy hammer, driving steel spikes deep into solid rock. Each swing echoed like thunder through the mountains, sending sparks flying as iron struck iron. He drove the steel deeper and faster than anyone else, and he never seemed to tire. The men around him looked up to him, and his presence lifted their spirits. When the sun rose, they followed his lead. When the work got tough, they looked to him for strength. He was their hero, even if he never asked to be one. Life was hard, but the crew worked with pride, knowing their hands were building the future. Then one day, everything changed. A train pulled up, carrying something new and strange. It was a massive machine, a steam-powered drill designed to cut through rock faster than any human could. A company man in a neat white suit stepped off the train, looking down on the workers with a smirk. He explained that this machine could do the work of 10 men. It didn't need food, it didn't need rest, and it certainly didn't need a paycheck. The workers exchanged worried glances. If this machine could do their jobs, what would happen to their families? How would they survive? A heavy cloud of fear settled over the group. That's when John Henry stepped forward. He didn't raise his voice or shout. He simply said, "No machine can beat the strength of a man." The company man laughed, mocking him. "You think you can beat this machine? Prove it." And just like that, a challenge was set. Man against machine. The workers gathered around, their eyes filled with a mix of hope and doubt. This wasn't just about one man's pride, it was about every single worker on that line. If John won, it would prove their value. If he lost, the machine would take everything from them. John accepted the challenge. He picked up his hammer, as heavy as a boulder, and prepared himself. The machine hissed with steam as its operator tightened the bolts. The company man stood proudly, certain that iron and steam would easily crush flesh and bone. But John Henry wasn't afraid. He had swung that hammer his entire life. It was more than just a tool. It was a part of him. The race began with the sharp blast of a whistle. The machine roared to life, its steel claws biting into the mountain with a deep, rumbling noise. But at the same moment, John Henry stepped forward and brought his hammer down with a mighty swing. The steel rod drove into the rock with a deafening crack. The crowd roared as John swung again, and then again, each strike more powerful than the last. It felt like the mountain itself was trembling beneath his feet. The machine kept drilling, pushing forward relentlessly. It didn't sweat. It didn't breathe. But John was alive, and his will was stronger than any steam engine. His arms moved like pistons, but his heart gave him the rhythm. Sweat poured down his face, his muscles burned, but he refused to stop. His hammer rose and fell, like the beat of a drum that would not be silenced. As the minutes ticked by, the machine's operator smiled, thinking victory was close. But when he looked again, his smile vanished. John Henry was ahead. His hammer was driving the steel deeper than the machine's drill could ever go. The crowd's cheers grew louder. "Go, John, go!" they shouted. Dust filled the air, and sparks lit up the dark tunnel like stars. John's wife stood nearby, watching with both pride and fear. She knew her husband's incredible strength, but she also knew his heart. He was giving every last ounce of himself. Desperate to keep up, the operator poured more steam into the machine, making it hiss and scream. But no matter how hard they pushed it, they couldn't catch John. He swung faster, harder, with a power that seemed to come from the depths of his soul. Each swing echoed like a heartbeat through the mountain. The race grew fierce. The machine drilled with all its mechanical strength. John swung with all his human might. The tunnel shook with the epic battle between man and machine. Inch by inch, John pushed ahead. His hands were bleeding, his arms were trembling, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. He wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for every worker, every family, every person who believed that hard work still mattered. The crowd's voices blended into a single powerful chant. "John Henry! John Henry!" The machine shrieked under the pressure. John roared back with his hammer. And then, as they neared the end of the tunnel, the final moment arrived. The air was thick with heat and dust. John lifted his hammer high for one last swing. It felt as if the entire world held its breath. With a mighty roar that echoed through the valley, John Henry brought his hammer down. The steel rod drove deep into the rock with an explosion of sparks. The machine gave one final defeated hiss and stalled. The crowd erupted. John Henry had beaten the machine. He had proven that human strength, determination, and heart could triumph over cold iron. His fellow workers rushed to him, lifting him onto their shoulders in celebration. The company man just lowered his head in silence, humbled by what he had just witnessed. But John Henry, though victorious, was utterly exhausted. His chest heaved as he fought for breath. He leaned on his hammer, his body covered in sweat and dust. He had given everything he had in that battle. Slowly, quietly, he laid down his hammer. His heart, which had beaten like a powerful drum throughout the race, had reached its final rhythm. John Henry collapsed gently, his hammer still in his grasp. His fellow workers surrounded him in a somber silence. They knew they had witnessed true greatness, something no machine could ever replicate. The company man, once so proud and cold, took off his hat and lowered it in a sign of deep respect. The machine had lost, but more than that, it had been humbled by the sheer power of one man's will. The tunnel was finished, and trains would pass through it for years to come. But at its entrance, the workers placed John Henry's hammer as a memorial, a reminder of the man who gave his all to prove that flesh and spirit could be stronger than iron and steam. Over time, songs were written about John Henry. His story was told in ballads, poems, and campfire tales. People sang of the steel-driving man who challenged a machine and won, even at the cost of his life. His legend spread across the country. Generations of workers would tell their children, "Listen closely near the tunnels, and you might still hear the sound of his hammer echoing in the hills." It was said that John Henry's spirit lived on in every swing of a worker's hammer, in every person who stood tall against impossible odds. John Henry's story isn't just about physical strength. It's about courage, pride, and the unbreakable human spirit. He stood up when everyone else was afraid. He faced a future where machines threatened to replace people, and he proved that no machine can ever match the heart of a determined man. Today, more than a century later, his name is still remembered. His story is sung in schools, told at festivals, and shared along the railroads that run through the mountains he once conquered. John Henry remains a powerful symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in our modern world of technology, the power of human will is something no engine can ever replace. His legend lives on not just in songs and stories, but in the spirit of anyone who refuses to give up, no matter how tough the challenge. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more legends from history. We'll see you next time.